Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Behind the Anchor. I'm Noah McLane, and of course, the man, the myth, and the legend, Head Coach Jim Fleming. Coach, as always, wonderful to see you.
Good to see you.
And, well, aside from a fantastic episode that we also have a very exciting game this weekend. We have the 42nd Governor's Cup, which we are going to touch on today, and a couple of other things that we are going to be talking about. So we are very excited for that. We're going to jump right into some of the quick hitters.
Love the quick hitters.
And this week we have one of my favorite ones so far. You consider yourself a car guy? Let's talk cars for a second.
I named my car Big Daddy Ride. All right?
Wow.
No, I'm not a car guy. Now, do I like to drive around in a nice car? Yeah, that's got room? Yes. Do I have a favorite car? No, but I've driven in everything from a 1968 sport wagon that used to go ahead in high school and fill up with water when it snowed or rained in the floorboard to what I'm driving now, which is a GMC Acadia, which is outstanding. You ought to get one. They're awesome. But as long as it gets me from point A to point B and doesn't cost me an arm and leg, I'm pretty good.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a good way to look at it. Now, if you had to say, out of all the cars that you've owned, what's been your favorite one so far?
Well, own is a stretch.
Or lease.
Right? Because that's usually what a football coach does, is kind of leases. The favorite one? Man, that's a hard question. I really like that Buick LaCrosse. That was cool. That was like, low rider type thing. But very happy with what I got right now, and can't really remember anything else.
Now, on the opposite side, least favorite car that you've ever owned?
Least favorite car, and it's least favorite, but also kind of favorite. Got a spot in my heart. I used to call it the Meadowlark Lemon.
Yep.
All right, because when I was at Boise, my first job, I was getting paid $5,800 a year. I had to buy a car. I bought a car for $700, which the transmission went on, and I deliberately drove it in reverse because that's the only gear that worked, to work one day. Went down probably a 4-mile ride behind, from my house in Boise to the stadium in reverse. And then when I did get a full-time job, made a little bit more money, that's when I turned it over to the GA and gave it to him. So he probably drove it to death.
Now, do you remember how much your first car costed when you bought it?
It was probably more along the lines of a truck. Me and my brothers had a company growing up called Flembros Inc. Now, we were landscapers and did all kinds of odd jobs. We had advertisements in the paper, and our advertisement said Flembros hauling and landscaping. And we make any job easy like Sunday morning. So that was in the paper, and we bought a used main light and power truck, the Ford, like 350. It was stupid old, and cost us like $800.
Well, you probably won't be able to do that today.
No,
but
can't do it. But
that's unbelievable.
It didn't last very long. You couldn't put it up on a lift to fix it because it was so rusted out. But it served its purpose.
Well, there you go. As long as it gets you to point A to point B, right?
Amen.
Now, if money is off the table, you go to the lot, and every car possible in the world is there, and you can take home whatever car you want. What car are you taking home?
It's something I'd fit into, so that cuts out all the cool ones, right? The Lamborghinis and the Maseratis and all those things. But I don't know, one of those big, huge Mercedes are kind of cool.
Would you ever drive a Cybertruck? Have you seen those?
Yeah, I've seen them. Tom Drury, one of my friends and boosters and supporter of the programs, got one of the brand new ones that is pretty cool to look at. So yeah, I would drive anything. I would really drive anything. So it really doesn't matter.
Now, in the movie Cars, let's talk about one of the best movies of all time.
Never seen it.
What?
Is it the cartoon?
Yes.
Never seen it.
Well, there's your homework. When you
Let me
in between,
I have a Governor's Cup on Saturday, and when
to add yet another
little Cars tonight. And first off, I won't be able to get the TV to be able to do that because my wife will be watching something on television, mostly which would be political television, and Cars is not going to make it to the Fleming household tonight.
Well, maybe down the road in the off season, we'll put that in the back in the review.
Yeah, get some popcorn, some Raisinets, and we'll sit right in here and we'll watch right on that TV.
Awesome.
Me, man.
Fantastic. You tell me time and place, and I'm there. Now, if you were to say that, so in the movie, the cars, they talk. They are almost like human beings, except they're cars, of course. Now, do you think that those cars have car insurance or life insurance?
Very interesting. Maybe it's a blended policy. Little life insurance and car insurance blended together, knowing that if you get in a wreck and die, you get paid a little bit more. If you get in a wreck, we'll just pay you for the wreck.
Kind of like Geico when you bundle home and auto, That's great. Oh, my goodness. Now, let's jump into another thing. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much thought do you put into your game day attire?
Minimal, usually, and I just had a conversation with James Morris, our equipment manager, who and right-hand man that does so much for the program. He was kind of getting on me because we were looking out of uniform last weekend. Everybody was kind of wearing different things he wants us to wear, what he wants us to wear, and I'm good with that. But, last week it was hot. I looked into, my bag. I had my pants. I had my shoes. I forgot my polo, but I did have my pullover. So it's a good thing having an equipment group with you because I just got a nice long sleeve tech that was really tight and then put the pullover on. But don't spend a lot of time other than trying to find the things when we're winning that I've worn before. And making sure that I don't wear anything brand new on game day for some ungodly reason.
Now that feeds right into the next question. Is there, any outfit or a piece of clothing item that you consider kind of as a go-to? Maybe you wake up and that's the first thing out of your drawer, maybe besides your socks and underwear, if you so choose, if that's what you're rolling with.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking day-to-day, not just game day.
Either.
All right, well, we're day-to-day, long sleeve cotton tee, 100%, lightweight sweats, I'm good to go.
Bingo.
Yep.
Doesn't get better.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it really doesn't. It's
professional and athletic.
I don't know about professional. I mean, you saw me come in. I have my little suit over here from the Governor's Cup, which is about 40 years old, but I got out of it as quick as I could and put this stuff back on.
Well, you beat me to it because I was just going to say, right before walking in here, I saw the picture on Rhody football. And if you're watching this at home and you haven't seen Coach Fleming in his suit, go on Rhody football because, man, what a dazzler that was.
Yes!
Wow. Unbelievable. I need to see your tailor. Unbelievable.
Tailor. I only had to find something I could squeeze into. My suits were a little tight, so I just came with a sport coat.
Oh, man. Well, you look fantastic.
Well, thank you. That's awful nice of you to say.
Now, on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, last week we were talking about superheroes, and you said I'll never wear tights in this thing. But if you're thinking about a game day, what's an item, whether it be a visor or shorts or something that you would say, absolutely not, I am never putting this on?
Visor probably is not cutting it for me. You got to keep the sun off, thin this up here. Absolutely not. I can't think. I'm stumped. I really don't. I don't think anything. Just don't maybe wear a big heavy sweatshirt when it's 90 degrees out. So that's about it.
Keep it short and sweet. I love it. Now, let's jump right into some football talk now as we have a whole bunch to talk about. First, let's jump into last week's game against Hampton. First of all, what an unbelievable game. I don't know if you had a heart rate monitor on the sideline, but I know that mine was through the roof. It was just watching. I can't
I
imagine.
got the whoop.
Was it yelling at you?
It's wild, man. It's
down?
wild, dude. It's wild. You can go to every Saturday on the thing right now. It's like redlined, you know. And I don't even. I always think it's more going to be, you know, the physical exertion, but certainly it was. It's really wild. It shows the time, and right about the time we went into overtime, and it was spiking pretty good.
Well, we had a. If you had to describe last week's double overtime win in one word, what would that be?
Thankful. But I mean, that falls so short. I mean, it was incredible to watch a team be able to be in that kind of adverse situation on the road and find a way to get it done. Credit to coaches, credit to players. To stay in it, to be able to make the plays necessary going down the stretch is a phenomenal mark of our football team. I just prefer not to have to go through those a whole bunch. But I mean, you know, it was a fantastic finish, and you know, as I always look back on games, there's always one, maybe two decisions that I really second guess. Now this one worked out all right, but we were a yard, maybe a yard and a half away from the end zone after the two penalties they had on the extra point. You know, that was a conscious decision. Should we go for it or go into overtime? And you know, we went to the overtime because that's worked out well for us in the past. But, you know, you can't get a yard. Maybe you shouldn't win. So maybe I should have just done that, ended it right away. But I'm glad the way it came out, and it was a wild and fantastic finish. And, you know, got us to 4-1. Now we got to go play Brown.
Yep. Well, now we already kind of knew about some of the resilience that this team has faced. And, you know, there's oftentimes coaches and professionals, everyone says, you know, a team that doesn't face adversity will not be successful. And this team has kind of already seen a couple of times, whether we go back to that game, miracle at Meade, came back late in the game. We saw it, you know, against LIU in that fourth quarter, and now once again against Hampton. You know, what does this win specifically tell you about this team that maybe you didn't know, or that just really hammered home something that you thought already positively about this squad?
It's a great question. I think what you think about a long season. I think that, you know, the games have all been fairly similar. I mean, they could have gone the other way. We could be sitting here in a really tough spot right now, but the kids were able to find it. But we carried good emotion into all the other games. We went down to Hampton. It was a little hot. It was a dead environment. There was no music. It was really tough to muster up. And so I think, you know, that when it's important that during the course of the year, you may not be on the edge that you want to be on for game day, but you're able to execute well enough to win a game in those circumstances. And I think, you know, the game, how it went back and forth, certainly played into us having to buckle down and make some plays. But I think we got through a game that we were not at our best, and now we got to make sure we're addressing and improving in the areas that are necessary, which it's been 2 weeks. So, I mean, it's shame on us. It's been the same thing for 2 weeks, and it was time for us to put our best game together.
Now, when you talk about everything that's kind of happened against LIU, we saw Devin Farrell come out of the game, so we saw Hunter Helms come in and really take over that game. Last week, we saw kind of the flip of the script there. We saw Hunter Helms start the game. Devin Farrell came in and led the Rams to that comeback win in that double overtime. Just talk about that kind of day-to-day quarterback competition and maybe even what it's like to have the sense of knowing that you have two guys that can come in and have shown that they can win games on the road in tight situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're recognizing it correctly. I think, you know, we've got two talented kids that can play and win for us. You know, the piece that is gut, feel, evaluation, whatever it may be, is to, you know, what is best for our team at that time. And I think, you know, we've been right on in terms of our decisions to make when we've made them so far, and even to the point that, you know, our team was needing something, and when we made a move to start Hunter, you know, that's not an easy thing to hear from Dev. But I mean, I did think that there was some benefit involved with Dev being able to sit down, not have to come out of the gate, sit and watch for a little bit, knowing that I'd get him in the game at some point in time. But if Hunter had taken off on it right now, maybe he wouldn't have.
Right.
But, it's very comforting to know, it's a long season. I saw a couple of hits that Dev took last weekend, and we can't afford to see those anymore because then it'll be a necessity.
Yeah.
But you've got two good kids that both have a good skill set, and that's a gift. That's a gift. And so, we'll figure it out. I think, Dev's our guy going forward right now. We're going to build it around that, and when necessary, Hunter will get in there and operate the offense just fine.
Now, in the first few games of the season, the defense was kind of all of the talk, and the ground game was not really an aspect or a factor in most cases. But over the last two games, the rushing offense, it not only has it come to play, but it's really taken over the offense in a lot of sense. How do you guys look to embrace that success and move forward with that? The ground game going into this weekend and continuing?
Yeah, well, I think we talked last week. I felt like, the second half of the LIU game, I thought we learned something about ourselves in terms of what our strengths are and what we need to be able to accentuate in our offense. So, it's more of a choice. We have so much involved in our offense, and it's all good. But, there comes a point in time and just hand the sucker off, and when you sit there and watch what's happened the last 2 weeks, that's been a huge part of what we're going to be. We need to establish the run game. And when you're doing it, not only because it's the best thing for our offense to operate effectively, it's because you're keeping everybody involved. I got a stable of good backs.
Yeah.
When we got a couple that haven't touched the rock yet that, will spring loose and then they're gonna, be able to be impactful guys as well. But nothing better than a good solid run game because it can settle everything down in a second. And watching, some of the things Ford's done has been sick.
Yeah. Yes. Period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. That very well said. And now going back to that defense, when you talk about Hampton, they were held to 3.6 yards per carry on 48 different attempts. What has just been so impressive and consistent about the defense's growth already in this season as we come to, this weekend reaches the halfway point?
I think they play extremely hard. I think they're very sound in the fundamentals of understanding our scheme and how it executes. I think Laurenti and the staff put together a really good plan every week, and they make their choices on what you want to stop. The key to defensive football is make people beat you left-handed. And I think we did a very good job on the run game. I think the quarterback got out a little bit on us, but you start seeing the options that are available to the other team is if we can't run it, we're going to throw it.
Yeah.
And, that's where, we were a little frustrated last week, because the guy was like 24 or 26, some crazy numbers. So we're going to have to tighten up there. And then that's a real concern going into this weekend versus Brown. That guy might throw it 75 times. Yeah.
Saturday, October 12th, 11 a.m. before the Governor's Cup. I'm joining Rhody Football Front Office for Rhody Football Game Day Live. Free food, DJ Spiffy, contests, and so much more. At the South Lobby outside Toontown Gymnasium until 12:30.
Well, we touched on Brown, and let's jump right into that because, now this weekend we have one of the most exciting rivalries in Rhode Island sports. When you think about rivalries in Rhode Island, you probably think Providence URI basketball, and the second one, for me at least, has got to be, Brown URI football, the Governor's Cup. Those are up there for sure when you talk about these big things that everybody is going to be interested in and wanting to tune in. It's that competition for state bragging rights. With Hampton behind you as we turn now to the Governor's Cup, you've been at the helm for quite some time. You've seen the rivalry develop. You've seen it, numerous games on both ends. But what does this game mean to you, and why is it different than, any other?
The game itself is like any other rivalry game. There's a lot on it for the people that are following us. It's very, very important to a bunch of our fan base in terms of those bragging rights.
Yeah.
In the game right now, does it change things a whole bunch? No, but you're playing for a trophy. You're playing for somebody who's going to be on that field and taking that trophy. And at the start of the game, that's equal property.
Yep.
So I've seen it go away. And I've seen it come here and stay for a while, and that's the intent, because there's no worse feeling than seeing that go away. Now, the game itself has become more and more special as we've gotten down the road, because they've been incredibly competitive football games. And, I think it's a really good testimony to the state of college football in our state. People dig this game. People are locked in on it. Now that we're all playing Bryant as well, there is truly a state championship in college football here. And I think it's good for us, and it's good for them, and it's good for the entire, state to understand that, football is important enough for us to go, be hosted by the governor, to sit there and have him recognize the game and he's already done so much for us as a university. It's, it's impressive. So it's a very important game. And when you asked that question, I immediately thought to what I was writing down on notes last night when they pop into my head. My family's going to be here, so play well.
Yeah.
And that's important. That's important to me. It's important to those kids, but it's my family, my kids, they're going to be here. And some are coming from California. I want to see us play our football, and I want to see it play it better than we have all year.
Fantastic. Well, me too. And now the title of the Governor's Cup, which some people may not know the entire history of it, but that wasn't kind of installed until quite a while into this rivalry.
108 years.
There you go. That's a man that knows his Rhody football.
That just only because Perry mentioned it at the press conference. But it's 108 years that we've been playing, but the Governor's Cup is very close. I think we're up 2 on them right now over when it started, and I don't know the number there.
That's a long. 100. When you think about that,
how
long that goes back.
Yeah, right.
That is unbelievable about the amount of players that have gone through there.
Well, that ties in with the importance of the game to these fans. Vince Sinagra, who's on my staff, played back in the 70s.
Yep.
And he said, hey, Brown Week was Brown Week, man. That was everything dropped. We didn't go to class. We didn't do a thing. And all we did was got ready for that football game.
Now, when you think about that, with keeping that in mind and the stories that you hear and, of course, your own experiences as a coach, what is that significance of keeping that trophy right here in Kingston?
It's a victory that is embraced by a lot of people other than ourselves.
Yeah.
The thing has been in our office for 5 years. It needs to be there again when we wake up on Sunday morning. It would be a major, major empty spot in our trophy cabinet, which is sparsely populated. But that Governor's Cup is there, and that's an expectation. And when I talk to the kids, when they come on recruiting visits, when they're here, when we're getting ready for the season, it's not negotiable.
Yeah.
Go win. You beat Brown. End of story.
Well, I love that. Short and sweet there. And now, when you think about that trophy and you talk about keeping it here, do you have any stories maybe for folks at home about the trophy itself, about what that brings? Now, I know also if people haven't seen it before, there's a couple dings and dents along there on the way. Any stories that you might have to tell?
I won't tell the whole story, but I do call it the A.J. Beebalt, who was one of the greatest leaders we've had here and a great Rhode Islander and a great football player. I call it the A.J. Beebalt Rhode Island Governor's Cup behind closed doors. So the story stays where the story stays. But I did allow the cup to leave the premises after one victory, and that won't happen again.
We'll leave it at that. To your fans at home, we'll let you use your imagination about maybe what occurred after you. We'll let you write the narrative on that one. But you guys now looking for your 6th consecutive win in the Governor's Cup. What would that mean to you personally to bring that home?
Personally, I think it means an awful lot, because I don't know if that is a record. They had us 5 years in a row before, We're at 5 years. I don't know if 6 years has been done, but that's important.
Yeah.
I want it here.
Now, let's jump into some of the logistics about Brown as a team. They enter at 2-1 with an explosive offense and a tough defense. What's your mindset kind of entering this game as a whole?
I kind of mentioned it earlier. It's just my mindset is I want to see us play our best game. I mean, in a rivalry game, the emotions will run high, but we're kind of an emotional group and stay at that kind of peak. So I don't think that's a real concern. But what I want to see is an increased focus and execution, in a consistent manner. There's areas that we have identified 2 weeks ago to improve upon and did not take a step forward doing that last week. We need to do that to win the game this weekend. One of those areas is in the special teams area. I think that's going to be always has been significant in the outcome of the game last year, particularly. And we had a kickoff return for a touchdown, and we had a number of punt returns, but penalties on those. So we got to go out and we want to play good football in all three phases of the game. We need to eliminate turnovers. We need to eliminate the penalties, and we need to take the ball off of people a little bit more, and then we need to get our return game going.
Now, the culture here, you talk about the family often. We just, no matter where you are, it's a word, the word's family, the word trust, play for each other, 3 more feet, whatever it may be. When you talk about that culture, a guy who's been a part of that culture, Eddie Morrissey, who was an offensive line coach a year ago, he's been in this situation, but now he's on the other sideline, with the Bears. As a coach, what is it like to face someone that you're so familiar with in this kind of a rivalry setting?
I think that there's a brotherhood that is real between coaches when you share, a season together, no matter if it's just 1 year or not.
Yeah.
When you go face somebody that you're familiar with, you've got respect and all that, but you're both after the same thing, which is to win the game. I think, that Eddie will have, opportunity to talk to the Brown kids right now about what our approach might be. But there was nothing, he knows how we run the game. It's respect, and it's let's go beat some tail, but, it's going to be respect, handshakes, and do it the right way.
Yeah.
I think Eddie would communicate that to the kids. I mean, that's why I said at the press conference, I just think that this is a rivalry that is 2 programs that play the game the right way, and the full expectation is we can go bang the heck out of each other for 60 minutes, see who's best, and then you walk off your field knowing you played a good ball game.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that, first and foremost.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to do it. And now let's talk about the fans and Rhody Ruckus and how significant that this year, as you hunt for that 6th consecutive Governor's Cup title, how important and how excited are you that you get to play at home this year at Meade Stadium as opposed to over in Providence like last year?
Hey, listen, I can't wait to get back home. I'm hoping everybody is hanging off the rafters. I want to make sure it's loud when they're on offense. I want to see everybody involved in the game, the band playing. I want it to be and if we start to build it, I want this place to be a hard place to play.
Yeah.
And, we are in the greatest stadium in our conference, I think. It's just, there's no track, everybody's on top of it. And if we're rocking and rolling and everybody's ready at 1 o'clock, let's get out there and support it. I'm expecting and expecting. I want to see people out there. I want to see all the fans. I want to see the students out there, all involvement, man, because we're going to need as much help as we can get.
And when you talk about, kind of that preparation and that excitement, obviously in the locker room, there's a lot of excitement and anticipation for this game as well. And when you think about some of your younger guys and maybe guys that haven't played in this rivalry yet, what's your message to those guys when you come into a high intensity situation like this before the game?
Every game is really high intense, and I think, the concern that I have is that, you got people that are here for the first year, you have transfers, that really don't know, the significance of the rivalry. But, what I try to do is educate them on rivalry games. The rivalry games are a fact that freaky stuff happens. I've seen Brown guys go out and make these, one-handed crazy grabs and doing stuff. And we've done some crazy, some wild things too that, that need to come out in these kinds of games. And they seem to. But, a rivalry game really is about who wants it more. You know, you have to match the emotion and intensity of your opponent. If you don't, you're going to get beat. And so, I mean, our approach is to, you know, ratchet up our emotions, make sure we've got an intense laser focus, and understand on the first snap of the game right now, whether you know, whoever it is, you better make sure the opponent knows that it's going to be a 60-minute deal and we're coming hard.
Well, with that, you know, students, if you're watching, fans, if you're watching, this Saturday right here at Meade Stadium is the place to be. We are excited. The guys, of course, are going to be raring and tearing. I know Coach very excited, but this awesome, guys. Well, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Anchor. I'm Noah McLane. And, well, first things first, first-time guest on the show, and Coach Sinagra, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, Coach, the first question I have for you today is, as a Brooklyn, New York native, what brought you to Kingston as a defensive tackle back in the 1970s when you played here?
Well, obviously, a scholarship made it easy. But my background, a little bit, but my background will tell you why. I think a very brief little story here. I was born in a little town in Sicily, and my parents, we came here as immigrants, didn't speak any English. Didn't know what colleges were, didn't know where Rhode Island was. Everybody thought I went to Long Island. And the only reason why my mom, who was obviously, she was the boss of the household, even though my father thought he was, she said, if you're going to go away, go somewhere where we know people. Well, my parents knew people in Boston. My grandparents lived there. That was the first place I lived when we moved there. Lived out in Everett, Massachusetts. And so that was, you know, my father wanted somebody to keep an eye on me. So in case I got out of line, one of my uncles would come down and kick my butt. I had to keep it back in line. But I had opportunities to go to the University of Maryland, a few other places back in the day. Because, although I'm a little skinny guy now, I was a little bit bigger back then, and I did have some opportunities. But after it's all said and done, I think this is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and it got me to where I am today, and I love every minute of it. But that's the story behind it.
Fantastic. Now, just kind of bouncing off of that, you know, when you think back to playing on those teams and kind of watching this program grow over time from that point when you got here as a player all the way back then, what is it like to watch that, you know, your kind of paved road for the rest of the way for all these players and coaching staff to be able to come and see how this program has turned out?
Well, I think the formula was always there. When you look at the University of Rhode Island, take a look at the whole state.
Yep.
I mean, you come here and get recruited, and they take you down to Narragansett, Bonnet Shores, and all the beach area. You know, having been born in Sicily, I didn't wear any shoes and a shirt till I was, you know, you had to go to school. These were always at the beach and by the fishing boats. So to me, it was just a natural beauty that attracted me here. Plus the fact that the coaches were pretty, you know, really good guys.
Yep.
And the guys that I played with here, I mean, we were from all over, New England, Pennsylvania. We were from all over the place. So
Yep.
we had a great bonding group of guys that we bonded well together. We love playing the game. We love playing for the University of Rhode Island, and we play for one another. And I think nothing's changed there
Yep.
over the years, except that the bonds are getting stronger. The arm of recruiting has reached out further and further every year. And Coach Fleming, in my opinion, has done one of the best jobs of anybody that's been here, you know, including some of the teams that, you know, the 85 teams and Coach Griffin's great teams, I was a graduate assistant here for Coach Griffin for 2 years, so I know what I'm talking about. He built a great dynasty here, and I think that's what Coach Flynn, we're in the process of doing that now. But I think the bonding and just the people and the atmosphere around it just breeds success, and all you got to do is stick with it. And I told Coach Flynn when I first got here, I said, bro, let me tell you something. Anybody else would have taken off after about 2 or 3 years after not having success, but you stuck to it because you love the place, and you're all about the kids. You're all about the progress of this place, and he's done a great job.
I mean, just to bounce off of that, it always seems like no matter what the words around the locker room are, whether it's family, whether it's, you know, 3 more feet, compete, love, trust, grit, bring the juice, all of that just speaks directly into what you're saying right there, and I can't agree more. And now when you think of when you came back after your time with Georgia Tech back in 2019, do you think that aspect of those things that we just mentioned there, did that play a role into coming back to Kingston then?
I met my wife here. You know, I think one of the things we're going to talk about later is some of the best things that happened while I was here. Well, she was definitely the best thing that happened. Aside from all the hangovers and all the college stuff that I was able to do and the bonding and playing football. And again, I had an opportunity to have a cup of coffee here and there with the World League and a couple other places, which was great. But I think nothing's really changed except for the fact that it's still a great place and people want to come here. People ask me all the time, where are you going on vacation? I live in the vacation capital of the world. Yep. So when my wife and I, got married eventually, went around 6, 7 different schools that I was involved with. My last job was at Georgia Tech. When I came back home, that was going to be our final place. We always had a home here for 20 years. We had a place in Green Hill. Yep. Came up here every summer, spent months and months. When I coached at Holy Cross, it was a great, easy ride back and forth. So spent a lot of time here. But yeah, always enjoyed that kind of environment. So we said when we retire, we want to live in Rhode Island, and that's what we did. This place is magical, man. When you come here, you fall in love with the place. You fall in love with the people. You fall in love with the environment, and you fall in love with what's here as a university. Not just the football department, but just the whole athletic department. I think we just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because of the leadership that we have from the athletic director all the way down, and then the coaches that are here. You take a look at some of the cats who are on their coaching roster. Man, they got some discipline. They've got some history. They got some great people they've recruited. So when you come to a place like this, it's easy to fall back in love with it because I always loved it here. Yep. It wasn't like I left it. I always wanted to come back. So in 2019, when I retired for the third time, as my wife likes to say, we came home and COVID hit. So we're together for a long time, which was nice. But then I started coming around here. Somebody said, I think Coach Izzy said, why don't you come and watch practice one day? And I came and watched practice. I knew of Coach Fleming. I came down and it was a Tuesday. Then I came back another Tuesday, then another Tuesday, another Tuesday. I came all the way to the end of the season. And then things happened where he called. He said, would you be interested in helping me out? And I had to sit down with my wife because you got to talk to the boss all the time. And she said, why are you even asking? Look at the smile on your face. And I came back and, it's not about, status. It's not about this, titles. It's about being around kids again. You never get old when you're around young people. Every day, whether my back hurts, my legs hurt, my ankles hurt, my arthritis hurt with my fingers, like they go 18 different ways. Once I walk through that building, it's like, I'm like 18 again. I'm coming to work. Yeah. And that's the beauty. And then the kids are fun, man. It's a great place to be with beautiful, beautiful young men that want to do the right things for the most part. Now, I wish I could tell you it's utopia. I wish I could tell you it's euphoric. Everything's fine. No, you always have issues. But when you have a guy like the boss at the head who figures it out and does it, even-handedly, he listens to everybody, treats everybody the same, but everybody's different. So he treats every occasion a different way. Yep. And that's why I think he's had the success that he's had here, because he understands kids. He's a player's coach, as they say. A lot of people, he's a player's coach. No, a lot of people aren't players coaches. They give you that persona, but behind closed doors, they become whoever they are. But coach is that player's coach. That's why you have kids that come here, stay here as much as they can. And now with all the other stuff that's going on, transferring this, that, and the other thing, we've done a great job keeping kids here. Yep. So it speaks volumes for who we are, what we're building here.
I will, absolutely. Now, of course, this weekend is the Governor's Cup. This has been a long tradition, one of which back in the 1970s you were a part of. Yep. Just talk a little bit about what that's like. Of course, the in-state rivalry of wanting that the bragging rights, but just what kind of things go through your mind first playing and then kind of leading into being a coach here today?
Playing is exciting. All games are exciting, but when it comes to Brown, the interstate rivalry, I think it's even the fire gets stoked a little bit more, just because back in the 70s here, you didn't have all these fancy. We had some beautiful places, the door and all those dorms. That used to be the picture of perfect dorms when you were here. Now it's become like, we don't want to live there. We want to, you got to see these places and that place. But that was, that's where we were at the time. So we enjoyed what we had, but we were always looked upon as the second child here. We're always looked upon as the farmers from, South County. They don't belong up here in the hill in East Providence with us. We are Brown, and So that kind of stoked the fire a little bit more to get a little bit more excited. I've got, and this is, if you want to use it, but I didn't go to class for a week before the Brown week. Nobody went to class because, especially, back then we had more guys in fraternities.
Right.
So there was about 4 or 5 fraternities on campus that housed most of us. So we didn't care. Hey, listen, it is what it is. We have to be Brown. That was the big focus that we had. And that rivalry today is, in me, it fires me up just as much as it did when I was 18, 19 years old because it meant something. They looked down on us, and we strive to be the best. And, we have been the best. But to be looked upon as, second fiddle is not what we want to do. We want to be the prime school in Rhode Island. And we've proven that the last few years down the road here. So it's been very good.
We certainly have, and we are very excited to see that, hopefully again this Saturday. Now, I know you kind of just touched on a couple of points there, but any fun stories with the Governor's Cup that you want to share with some folks back home that excited you?
No, because it would probably implicate me, and I need a lawyer, and I'm on a fixed income, and I can't afford that. No, but the typical, call each other names, and their slogan for us was URI, URI, URI-NE, which you know what that spells. And then for us, we'd sing the song, "The Bear Came Over the Mountain," and Rhody kicked it. So that was the thing. And you heard one side going at it, and you heard the other side going at it. And there was quite a few brawls on the field, and I'm sure, from what I'm told by my fraternity brothers, there were quite a few brawls, and I'm sure that he was probably there watching some of them as a little kid. They were going on in the stands. So I think there were as much mayhem on the field as there was in the stands back then. And but stories, it's the same thing. We get in caravans of cars, and students would come like crazy. Or they take the Amtrak all the way down to Providence, stop the Pat's Tap across the street from what used to be the Dunk. I don't know what they call it now. I think it's Amica's, my insurance company. Yep. Go across the street, get hammered, and then go to the game. And look to beat somebody that had a brown shirt on or something, whether it was on the field or off the field. So I don't want to give out too many guys because there's a lot of lawyers in my class, a lot of business people that might get in trouble if I say anymore. So
well, fair enough. Now, when you think back to Rhode Island football on a whole, I know that there's a lot that you've been involved in as a player, as a coach. And now, if you kind of had to think about one specific time, a memory that maybe just is always there that sticks out to you to say, this is my favorite thing about Rhode Island football?
I just think, I came from immigrant parents. We didn't drive. I was the only one that had driver's license. Obviously, I couldn't bring my car as a freshman here. But the thing that sticks out of my mind that I knew, excuse me, I made the right decision. I took the Greyhound bus from 42nd Street Port Authority in New York City. I had a Foot Locker. I had a bag full of food because Italian mothers do that, So I had my hands full. I'm driving up, and I'm in the back of the Greyhound bus, and I probably fell asleep when I wake up, and I see a sign that says Wyoming. I said, "Oh my God, I'm all the way in Wyoming. I'm supposed to go to Rhode Island." It was Wyoming, Rhode Island. I thought it was Wyoming. So that was kind of the start. But then I get on campus, and they drop us off right by the Memorial Union. And the bus door opens. The guy gives me my stuff from underneath the bus. And there I am, big old chubby Italian kid. I got a bag here. I can't carry all my stuff. And the first thing that happened, some guy says, and that there was a demonstration on the quad then. It was during the Vietnam era. It was another big thing that was going on. And I looked around. The kid looked, young man looked at me. He goes, "Can I help you? Where are you going?" I said, "I'm in Browning 108. He says, "I'm going that way. I'll help you." That's when I knew I made the right decision. And from that point on, I think the friendships and the camaraderie amongst the students, the professors, and everybody else, that experience is, you can't put a value on it. And it was so good that after I graduated, my cousin Pete Sinagra came over for another 4 years. He had much better football player than I was. He had a ton of scholarships. My aunt said, "No, Vinny went there. You're going to go to school there. Otherwise, you don't go to college." And so Pete came here, wore the same number, and we all had a great experience. But there were so many memories. Of course, meeting my wife was a great thrill for me. My players every day was a different challenge. We had kids from, like I said, Pennsylvania, all over New England. We made great friendships. Back then, we were considered suitcase campus, so a lot of kids went home on the weekend. So if you weren't on a team or you weren't in a fraternity, you were kind of like, in the dorm by yourself. Mm-hmm. So those close-knit groups that we had back then, I mean, it was just made for everything. And I've been in 6 or 7 different places, and I tell you what, they might be nicer, the structure's nicer, the leagues are different, you play SEC teams, all that. But when you find something good like this place here, it don't make a difference what league you're playing in, as long as you have a good time and getting a great education. And I'm getting emotional talking about this. I owe my life to the University of Rhode Island. If it wasn't for the University of Rhode Island, I'd be breaking kneecaps in Brooklyn. I probably, would end up the wrong way, because in my neighborhood, you're either a cop, a fireman, or a crook. And sometimes all 3. So I could have been one of those, but my dad chose to keep me away from that stuff. And this was the eye opener that I needed, because if I went home, I was gonna work in the docks with my father for the next 50 years. Made a lot of money at it, but it wouldn't have been the career that I wanted. But this was the place that gave me my chance, my opportunities to see the country, see the world. I've been to Germany coaching. I've been to Japan. I've been to all these different places. I've had opportunities to, coach a lot of great young men who are now great fathers, great teachers, great professors, great doctors, all these guys. And that, to me, is worth it all. I don't have any children. Every kid that I've coached has become my personal son, and through their marriages, their wives have become my daughters, their grandkids. It's just a fun thing. Like tomorrow, Saturday, one of my linebackers I coach at Fordham, he's coming up with 2 of his kids to watch the game.
Fantastic.
That's what it's all about. Money's nice. It's good to have money. There's a lot of things you can do with money, but as I was always told as a little kid, if you have friends, you're always going to be the richest guy in the world. Awesome. And that's the way I look at life.
Well, Coach, thank you so much, first of all, for all of your time that you have dedicated to this university, to the game of football, to the kids that come through each and every program. We can't thank you enough. And I know, even though I don't know you too well, we can already see what kind of a man you are. And it's been a real pleasure to have you on.
It's better that you don't know me, because if you did, then you start to like me. And I don't like when people start to like me.
Well, we'll keep it at that then. Thank you for your time, Coach.
Thank you so much.
This has been a Week 7. Woo. Wow, we've done a couple of these already. Episode Behind the Anchor. We want to, of course, thank you, Coach Jim Fleming, and also to Coach Sinagra for joining us today on another episode of Behind the Anchor. Next week, the Rams will travel to face UNH, but folks, make sure this Saturday you are, as Coach said, loud, loud, loud. Wear your pink, and make sure the Rams get that W.